I feel like ancient these days.
You don't look it.
Carmen
I actually had
Miranda
a
is
shave
waiting
last
to be
week.
What
admitted.
happened to the control thing?
This is 3 days growth, but I did have a full beard just before the weekend.
Yes, yes. Last time I saw you, you were obviously Jabutkin in whatever that play is that he appears in.
Right. Oh, what's good? Okay. Oh, hello. Got one on.
Sorry, I'm just being a Zoom consultant here.
You're very good. Hello.
Hello, who is that? Is that Mrs. Camden?
Catch up.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Right from 7 o'clock. We were there, duty
Lovely.
bound, on time.
Yeah, I had problems with that. Yeah.
God, you look the same, Richard.
So I'm going to have to send it.
Gallagher.
I have to send it to Rikki as well, am I?
It would be useful, unless you don't want him to turn up. He can play solo on the other one.
No, I never want him to turn up, but he always does anyway.
Well, we were there.
Like a bad
I
penny.
thought so. I thought that might have happened. Sorry about that.
We were just talking about you, Gallagher, actually, about how to find you.
Well,
And I said, actually, via you, Leslie, probably would be the route. Hi, Nick.
No,
Hey,
I don't.
Rivka, how you doing?
It's via Camden.
Very
well.
It's via Camden because I don't have your contact details, do I? Ding.
yeah, people won't know I'm called Ding. I'm Ding because I was Luke's fairy godmother.
Fairy godmother, yes, no. I think I prefer the old name from the 80s, actually.
I was Sir Dick.
Camp David.
Oh, Suzuki.
No, there was
yeah.
another
Oh, Camp
one.
David.
There was another one. You remember it?
What
It was something to do with your strength.
Oh, super buff.
Yes, of course.
Super.
You were the unpaid, get in, get out,
I was
carry the whole lot by yourself.
with all the lighting equipment in it, and you didn't believe I could, and I could.
Well, and then believed it from then on in, every single time. It was very handy.
Somebody called me super buff. I can't remember.
It stuck. So this feels a little bit like a rehearsal from those days to me.
Yeah.
Where there may not be much of an idea quite yet, but there is an idea that there is an idea emerging.
Looks like
But
Starfield.
emerging wasn't used at that time. It's a bit up to date now, but something was going to come up, wasn't it? And my English wasn't nearly as good because I didn't understand what any of you were on about.
Yeah.
I just nodded and didn't smile at all.
I'm just going to nod and I might smile a bit.
Rivka, tell us how you.
Yeah, can I
arrived.
get up over this and then I can lose my nerves or excitement?
Can you tell us how you arrived on the Manchester Fringe Theatre scene? How did that happen?
Did I arrive? Yes, lovely. Okay, so I arrived because Public Spirit came over to Amsterdam and did a workshop. No, they performed at the Melkweg Theatre, which some of us have been to, the Milky Way.
I remember.
And then some of them stayed behind and joined a Grotowski workshop that was run by a guy called Matt Midler. I was quite taken by them or by their energy. I'd seen the show. I can't remember if it probably was The Beast, or maybe I hadn't seen the show. I don't remember that particularly, but there was something about their energy that was very, very appealing, whilst everything in Amsterdam at that time, I felt, to me, was very lethargic. So I remember just in that 2 years I was there, 17 to 19, so it's 1978 to 1980, people were prioritizing getting stoned and hanging in the Vondel Park, whereby this theatre company just wanted to make stuff happen. So energy, I remember. And also I had a bit of a love interest, as it goes, you know, at that time with one of them. And I also what came into it for me, the Grotowski workshop, I got a bit scared. It was beyond my comfort zone. And then I wanted to run away from Amsterdam for a bit, just have a little break. So I was offered Paris. There was like a friend there, but I didn't have a love interest. And I was offered Manchester with the love interest. So what the fuck do you choose? If you've got Paris or Manchester, you go for Manchester, don't you?
I chose Amsterdam.
From Amsterdam to Manchester.
I chose Amsterdam.
Chose Amsterdam. Well, that is a good, lovely choice, definitely. And I chose Amsterdam 2 years before from Berlin. So it's like Berlin, Amsterdam, Manchester. But so basically I followed public spirit. And then in the first bit of your article, it talks about Moonchild. So when I arrived, the girl who played the lead, called Eleanor, I think, went a bit loopy. Because she'd taken whatever drugs the public spirit were taking then. I think it involved LSD and other things, but didn't come off or deal well with the after effects. So there was a huge issue. So I took on the part. So my introduction to Manchester was playing her role in Moonchild. In the university called with the Mothmen. The student union at the time in that beautiful building where you had a gallery by the uni.
Was that?
Well, what was the art college?
Yeah, but it had a really lovely name. It's
not the Deaf Institute.
No, but on that same stretch, just go to the other side towards the Salutation.
School of Art, Holden Gallery.
It may come to me. Maybe Cavendish, I don't know. It had a name, Holden something, could be. And I remember one of the things is because, of course, we were all nude as well. And I didn't understand any of the play. My English was not good enough. I just delivered the lines. It was all quite fascinating, really. But we did get some interesting write-ups. And I think that was it, really. And then I was in Manchester. And then I went back, packed my stuff, brought my car, drove over here a few months later. So this is early 80s, because it says here 79. I think they made the play in 79, but it was performed 80s. We were meant to go on tour. By the time I came back to go on tour, Public Spirit had split. And I remember there's a split that wasn't necessarily a too happy a split. There was acrimony about which direction it wants to go to. It's not that they were not talking to each other at all, but there was definitely something. And the side of people I wanted to work with, which included Gluckstein, they didn't want to work with me because they had Pete Tchaikovsky in it. And for some reason, he didn't like me. I learned all this later. And the other side, which was the Steve Dixon side, they did want to work with me, but I didn't want to work with them because I thought they were not as exciting or energetic enough. And then I met Rikki. And that was that. So the tour never happened. We never went to Europe. Moonchild ended there and then Rikki and I started setting up the next thing. Right, I think I've spoken enough now.
Thank you. That was lovely.
That is really interesting. We're going to find out the sort of origins of how you came to Manchester. Is really interesting. Because I was probably in Amsterdam at the same time, but I was with people who I was with the Dochtroep, and they were very much not in that mode of lethargic kind of stuff. You know, they weren't taking drugs, they weren't hanging out in the Vondelpark. I was living quite next to the Vondelpark and never went there. There were lots of things I did. I lived in Amsterdam and I never did any of the tourist things. I didn't, not till much later that I went to see all those things that the tourists go and see. Yeah, quite the opposite. Never smoked dope. All the people I worked with didn't smoke dope. Later on was living on the north side, in the industrial bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was all late 70s. That was 79, 80. Maybe a bit later, actually. Maybe 81. Right about then. Interesting.
Maybe one day we'll find a photo and we're both on it. But I think
Yeah.
because also I was just
In the Milky Way. We'll be in the Milky Way at some
Milky
gig or
Way.
just outside in the crowd.
and I was in the international summer school for 2 years running. So there was loads of people like People Show and Katie Dark and Carlos Traffic and Django Edwards and all those people, and probably Dog Troop were performing as well, but I wasn't with them. So I'm sure the paths will have crossed. I just, being very young and new to it, I didn't find the groups that did do stuff. So that's why I tried to make things happen and ended up with people who didn't. So I'm glad you had that experience, because that sounds a lot nicer.
Well,
Oh, Ricky's here. Ricky's coming.
Rikki has finally, we've managed to get him in.
And Jackie's still doing her performance art around her
She is.
kitchen.
She
Oh,
is.
she is?
Rebecca, can you Rivka, do you remember a guy called Dave Calladine?
Yeah, I used to go out with him.
That was your love interest?
No.
No, okay. Well, he was he actually went to the same school as I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a
He
small
was in the sixth form when I was in the lower fifth.
Right.
And he was the big theatrical talent in the school. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, Dave was had been going out with Eleanor, the one that I'd replaced, and actually continued to be in love with her, but I don't know what happened. I did see him at some point years and years and years after, and maybe, didn't he move up to around Hebden? It's possible?
Yes, he
Hebden
used
Bridge.
to.
Okay.
We knew him when he was, well, we'd heard of him through Pete Gluckstein and Fiona Watson, and then we met him in Hebden Bridge, and he was living with a woman, Katrina El Haj, who lives in Cumbria, who's, I don't know what happened to him, but they did smoke industrial levels of dope.
Wow.
Frightening amounts, actually, which sort of made conversations quite fringe theatre, I guess. Yes,
Who are you
but he didn't.
Calladine.
He just disappeared off the. I don't know what happened to him.
Who are you
Katrina
talking
still
about?
runs a-
Dave Calladine.
Oh, right, I remember him. Yeah, yeah.
Hello, Rikki.
Hi, Rikki.
Hiya.
Hi.
Hello, Leslie.
You all right, love?
You've got the light behind you, so I can't see you properly. You look as if somebody's taken a large
That's
chunk out of your head. Who's that? Is
Well,
that James Stott?
Oh my God, Rikki!
Oh, it's Tim Donnelly, mate.
That's not Tim Donnelly, is it? I can't
Yes,
see it
it is.
properly.
Donnelly.
Tim, speak.
Rikki,
Lurking in the
Well-
chat.
hello.
Hello, how you doing? Jesus Christ, man.
What? Do I look old?
No, you look fantastic.
So do you. You looking? Oh my God, Rikki.
How you doing, man?
All the better for seeing you.
Good. So, where are you now?
The chat.
Where do you live?
Where are you now?
Yeah.
There's
Where
no jazz
are
song,
you?
you know, where are you now?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Do you want a literal or a Battersea?
Oh, in Battersea. Okay, cool. Nice. Nice.
In a retirement home for ex-showgirls. I lied to them about my gender in order to gain admission.
Okay.
Didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm here to try and find out what happened. I don't really remember.
talked about you.
Don't talk to us about what happened. We've got no idea. It's a madhouse.
Well, that's why I've asked Edward along, because he tends to remember things.
I'm going to make it all up.
Great.
If none of us remember.
Well, we
then-
did in those days, so why not?
Yeah.
That could be. That could be. That might be preferable, actually, Edward, if you just volunteer to tell the story.
No, there must be somebody who was. Well, you would, Rivka, because if you, I see on the thing you're going to talk about Public Spirit, and as far as I know, they were the first sort of Manchester alternative theatre company. Along
What
with,
about 784?
It was
For
all
my time.
Well, so whatever.
is it 784 already?
Public Spirit came to Capital in Didsbury. Public Spirit did a show, and one of the students was asked to make a poster for them. And so the poster came out with pubic spirit.
Oh, nice.
And this was sent back saying it's wrong, and it came back again saying pubic spurt. What we called it forever.
Well, I don't know whether you've heard, but another important figure of all this was C.P. Lee, who died yesterday.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yesterday.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. Which was
He
the big
was
shock.
one of the original guys from Public Spirit, wasn't he? Or was
No,
he?
he was the
Albertus
Albertos.
Illustrious Paranoias.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bruce
he-
Jemieson's outfit, Bruce Mitchell, Jackie and Bruce lived in Central Road next to the Bridge Club in Didsbury. The Albertos, he was founder.
Let's talk about
The next
what
thing,
actually.
the next
Uh-huh.
thing is actually the fantastic Whalley Range All Stars.
The Whalley Range All Stars.
Yes.
Um,
So
does.
that's the next thing, and it's Sue and Edward, and they're both here, and they're going
Are
to
they?
tell us. Yeah, you missed, Rikki. You missed. Rivka did a really nice little thing just about her involvement with.
Just missed your ex-wife.
Early-
but we
early
talked earlier anyway.
We
her
know
early-
all about
how
you,
she got
Rikki.
here, and how she.
He knows all that
All right.
anyway. He knows all
Richard
that.
Gallagher.
See.
Richard Gallagher. How lovely to see you.
Right, Rikki, just shut up for a minute and let other people speak, will you?
Shut. Wait, listen.
So let's
Haven't
hand
said
over
much.
to Sue and Edward.
Yeah.
Whalley Range All Stars. How did it start? How did that happen? And it's still going. And it's like, how the hell did it happen?
We both, well, we met working with Horse and Bamboo who were in Lancashire, and then from that, Sue had already had been working in Amsterdam with Dog Troop, and through Sue, they invited me over to do a big month-long project in the Milky Way, which Rivka's mentioned. So we did that, and then we went straight to a Horse and Bamboo winter tour, and then from that to a Dog Troop summer tour, and then we started to sort of have a few ideas that wouldn't be done by Dog Troop, because they had their own momentum. So we started doing little things in London, and then where I was living at the time. And then Sue had moved to Manchester, and then I moved up to Manchester, and we started doing things here, there, and anywhere you could, really. There's and which corresponded with Jeremy Shine starting up Radiator and the beginnings of the Green Room. And there were, I think, well, I mentioned C.P. Lee was putting on things. We used to do things at the Chiltern Tennis Pavilion on Brantingham Road, where you could just ask them, can we do something?
Yeah.
They would just say yes. So we did it where and when we could. And then you discover that there's a kind of circuit outside for outdoor work, which is what
And
we've
one
done
of the
with.
things, just
No,
to
no, carry on.
interrupt, sorry. The pavilion was the introduction to that was these cabaret nights, like Dada cabaret nights that Dave Calladine was putting on. So
And Steve Todd as well.
yeah, Steve Todd, and yeah, there was a whole interesting little connection of people who well, I don't know Steve Todd now except on Facebook, but I think at that point, perhaps Edward, we met Terry as well, didn't we? Terry Naylor, and that was a great sort of connection as well. We did various things with him, but you were his lodger.
Yeah.
Our other, what was I going to say? There was I can't remember now. There was some sort of funny thing about how we started off. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Sorry, might come back. Oh yeah, no, I think it was because we moved to Manchester. Oh, I was of no fixed abode. That was it. I was of no fixed abode for quite a while when I was working in Amsterdam and then coming back to Manchester, and sort of I was in that phase where everything falls apart. So you just left college, so you have no flat, no home, can't go home, go off to some random thing in Amsterdam, stay with people there, have affairs, whatever, that fall apart, come back home, and previous relationship falls apart, and then you realise, oh God, I'm in Manchester, I don't know anybody. And then do some things with Horse and Bamboo. Then met Edward, who was in London, and then had this strange kind of going backwards and forwards thing. And there was just this great moment when I moved into a flat in Whalley Range and hadn't been there yet. So a friend had taken the flat, and I was doing a big fire sculpture with Horse and Bamboo with Edward. It was a huge horse. I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of it, the Whitworth horse. It was mega, ridiculous kind of feats of endurance, basically, sleeping out in a van on the hillsides and stuff. And at the end of that, I was to move into the new flat, and we arrived in Whalley Range. And I arrived at the flat, and the friend, she'd run away. So we arrived at this flat in Whalley Range, absolutely exhausted. And Edward sat down, and the neighbours from upstairs, these two guys who lived upstairs, came down and were very kind and said, oh, would you like a cup of coffee? So I said, oh, yeah, okay. So I went up to get the coffee, left Edward untying his shoelaces, came back downstairs again sort of half an hour later, and he was just fallen asleep, like slouched over his undone shoelaces. And that was the start of our kind of exciting venture in the house of real horror in Whalley Range.
In the article I mentioned the Wally's Comet.
Oh yes.
Remember that show? This was something. Yeah. I think Sue told me about this at the time when I was researching this article.
Was this the one where I say there's no acting in any of our shows?
Yeah.
Vehemently. Yeah. There's still no acting in any of our shows.
That was the first show I ever saw you guys.
All right.
Wally's Comet. I think you revived it brief. I think you may have done with it, but you revived it for that. There's some sort of mass Fringe Theatre event out in was it Prestwich over in?
It was at Abraham Moss or somewhere.
Yes, I think it was the Abraham Moss. Yeah,
I think.
I know Bill Hopkinson did. That's the last time I saw him. First and last time I ever saw him perform. He had some massive piece on like a big 4-poster scaffold bed.
That was in the cathedral in Hume.
Yeah, everybody revived. I think everybody revived a piece. I know you did. What I saw Wally's Comet anyway. So that was must have been 85, 86.
Yeah, the show you're speaking about.
86
was called The Song of Olwen because I directed.
That's the one. The Song of Olwen. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I've still got a lot of photographs of it.
Yes, yeah, so that was I think the event where I sort of
We'd already done dodos and don'ts, though, hadn't we, for quite a while before we.
I've not long been in Manchester then, so that's just my first encounter.
Mm.
It would have been, I think that one would have been 1986, I think that would have been.
Yeah.
And it was just, we used to make sure, because the outdoor circuit in the country was kind of, well, it was a possibility you could do that you could make money doing. So the two things came together nicely. So we did start off doing indoor shows, and Rikki directed one of them.
Yeah, I remember
probably
that.
the last time we saw you, Rikki.
I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I went off to work with Caboodle, and after that, I went to work for Welfare State International, and I worked with them for 2 years, sort of as a director and a performer. And I went on a tour with them, and I can't remember which year that was. It was probably about 91, something like that, or 89. I can't remember. Something a bit like that.
I think we sort of concentrated on the outdoor work because it offered what we wanted to do. There were more possibilities.
It was part of what we've been doing with Dove Troop as well. There's quite a big feature of their work because they come from Welfare State. A few of them had been over and had worked with Welfare State and had taken that kind of ethos back with them. And the garden festivals were happening as well. So I think that's what gave us an opportunity to get some gigs, basically. So I remember us touring around on a bus. Was it Liverpool Garden Festival first or something?
Yeah.
And we met people like Andy Coombs and Daniel Rovai, if anybody remembers him or knows him. So that was what sort of kick-started us doing outdoor stuff.
Funmi has just joined, who is actually one of the London connections.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello.
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 Got a photo.
What do you got? Oh, that's an open. Oh, that's it. I was going to ask Sue, there's a bit of overlap. I worked with a lady called Minty McDonald, who was I think she was after your time, but she was with Horse and Bamboo. I mean, when I say work with her, we were colleagues. We were in a college doing, which was offering a BTEC course. I was a technician, she was a design tutor. But I just wondered if you had ever knew her, or was she after your time?
No, I think so. I mean, that was right at the very beginning of Horse and Bamboo, really, as well. We only did a bit before we went off to do more dog shoot work, really. It
was 81, I think.
Yeah, I worked with, but this was about 91, 92. So yeah, she'd be after you.
Yeah, we kind of.
Is that, sorry, we got a time lag problem.
Yes.
I also met some ex-members of Welfare State. I saw Welfare State when I was still at school. They came down to Birmingham, did a thing called Up and Down Mooney in the arena at Cannon Hill. And just when I left college, I met some of the people who worked in that. I think they'd been in that, doing something in near Crewe, some sort of outdoor trying to start a festival type thing. I can't remember what they called it. There's a guy called Richie Three Balls Taylor, I think. I don't know if you know. No, he was a juggler. He's a very good juggler. But he wasn't,
Okay.
but there are a whole load of people. there were a whole load of people from Welfare State doing these big constructions.
I missed Welfare State by a whisker, really. It was quite strange. And when I first was at college, I was going out with somebody who was doing foundation in Manchester, and in his first term, he had Bob Frith was his tutor, because he was tutor on foundation then. And in his first term, he went with Bob, who was at that moment also artistic director with Welfare State, went up to Burnley, and they did his first kind of foundation art project. I blew his mind completely. To went up to Burnley and did the Christmas crib. And of course, I was in Huddersfield at Polly, but I used to come over to Manchester every weekend and or every other weekend or something, and see loads of bands at Hacienda and the like, and then go, yeah. So I went up to Burnley, and that's how I started on my trip going to Holland, because I met somebody called Frank Burbet, who goes under a different name now, I think, who lived in Leiden, and he invited all the students there. He was working with Welfare State. He invited all the students to come to Leiden, and none of them did, except me. Oh. I said, let's go. So off I went to Holland, and that's what started that whole link, really. I ended up meeting somebody in Leiden who was working with Dog Troop, who said, "Oh, I come up to Amsterdam and do some work with Dog Troop, etc." So yeah, one thing led to another. But yeah, just missed on the Welfare State thing, because that was as close as I ever got to him. Never saw a big show. I saw their indoor touring show that they did at the Birch Polygon. Yeah, it was kind of, that's one of those things. I always think, oh, I kind of feel like they were this massive influence on my whole journey in this, but I never actually saw them. So.
Them and those IOU as well were big in the 70s art theatre scene. It was like they played the Arts Lab in Birmingham. So he's a and what's the other one? Circus Lumiere. They sort of all three were sort of quite impactful around the mid to late 70s.
Well, I worked with IOU, but much later in the late 80s and then the beginning of the 2000s. And one of the founder members, who's also one of the founder members of Welfare State.
Lou Glandfield?
No, Steve Gumbley.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah.
He worked with us and he still does work with us. Not that we're touring at the moment, but he's one of our performers. And
were you involved in that wonderful event at the Covered Market in Manchester? You know, the
Castlefields.
Yeah, Castlefield. They did this amazing and sort of massive installation on the glass.
No, but Edward had his. Oh no, that was a different thing, wasn't it?
Was it the one with the big metal tower and the
pond?
Yeah, and the pond that somebody.
That was amazing. That was an amazing piece. I just loved what it's like watching the moon rise. It was really leisurely, very slow.
Yeah,
just like actually a sort of sequence of images, really.
Yes, that's what they were.
Back in 3 minutes. I've just got to go to the loo.
I remember doing a workshop with them up in their place, but it was like a training workshop. But remember, Belinda and Peter, they got very involved with Welfare State, and they did a lot of the celebrant stuff alongside them. They kind of got trained by Welfare State to do the celebration, you know, the alternative ceremonies. Anybody remember that? No.
No.
Yeah, yes, I remember it. I remember it. Yeah.
First time I saw them was
let me just move things on. All right. Thank you, Edward and Sue. The next thing we're going to talk about Theatre Totale. Okay. So I hand over to Rikki and Rebecca and Rivca and Lesley, and possibly Gallagher may chip in when he returns from his bag break.
Is fag break.
Dog break.
He called it toilet, didn't he? He called it a toilet.
Yeah.
No,
He
it's
called it a toilet.
fag break, definitely. He's always doing that. So, Theatre Totale, how did it start? Rebecca told us something, a little bit.
There was another before
her arrival in Manchester.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
The arrival in Manchester was that somewhere along the line I met Rikki within a few months. And then out of that came Square Moon Theatre Company.
That was a crazy name, I know, and it changed because it was such a shit name.
Yeah, but you did do all the letter setting for it with love anyway.
Oh, I know, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, do you remember? Just remind us all of the letter set.
Yes, because I had worked briefly as a graphic designer in the days that you used to have to stick everything down and rub individual letters onto posters.
Yeah.
I had all these skills, so I designed the posters, and it took absolutely fucking ages to do that stuff in those days. And then we decided that we didn't like the name, so we changed it to something else. What did we change it to? I can't remember, Rebecca.
There was another name in between that maybe had the 11th House Theatre.
Oh yes, that's right.
How did that come back? Sorry, everybody. This is a bit of a memory lane moment.
That actually came from Azhar El Safar, who thought.
Oh yes, wow. But that's another name too. I'm in contact with her, by the way.
Oh, are you? I was trying to get in contact
so that's
with her.
Really definitely to bring in. So we lived with Azhar. She was a violinist.
I've lost you. The sound's gone.
Sorry, I don't know.
The other individual was Joe, who she was having a relationship with. And we met them whilst working at the Royal Northern College of Music, constructing sets and stuff. Because I remember working on sets in the holidays, and we ended up working there for quite a long time, and it was incredibly well paid, I remember, at the time. And we then met this other guy called Mark somebody, who was also a violinist, and we did a production of The Frogs with Joe, Azhar, you, me, and some other people, and it was in Moss Side Community Centre. So I remember that happening.
It must have been great. I remember nothing about it.
It was fantastic, but it all fell apart when we had a booking at an old people's home, and we tried to do the show. And all these old people were sitting in the audience and saying, "Sorry, I can't hear him. What's he saying?" So I had a discussion with Joe, and I just said, "Run the show at double speed. Let's just get out of here." So I remember that being completely crazy.
Yeah, but anyway.
We did a whole load of other stuff.
Yeah, there was just a lot of whatever. It felt whatever, actually, at that time.
It did. But the good show was The Fall of the House of Usher. Which
that's the one that put me into you, Sue.
Exactly.
Camden tells a scurrilous story, which I'm not sure is correct or not. But I followed you home and sat on your doorstep until you gave me a part in your next show.
You did actually do that. You did do that. You did do that. And at the time,
you were drunk as usual.
So at the time, I was actually teaching part-time at what was then called Manchester School of Theatre.
Manchester Polytechnic.
Manchester Polytechnic School of Theatre. Yeah. And I think that's how I met you, but I can't remember.
Oh, you were performing there. It was a year after I left.
Yes, we were. That's right. Yes, we were performing there.
I signed a contract to Bolton Octagon for 6 months. I saw your play and thought, I don't want to do Bolton Octagon. I want to do this. I followed you home. And you said, there isn't a part in the next play. And I said, well, write me one.
So we did. So we did. I know. It was great fun, though.
I guess that's how Movie came about.
It is.
It came about, yeah.
So basically, shows. I think I remember shows were created to suit the people that were around.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which I think is quite a nice thing, anyway, to do.
Yeah, it was a nice thing to do. Yeah, and it was great fun.
Yeah,
it was actually a real laugh. I have some very, very interesting photographs of those days. I haven't shown anybody yet.
Are we going to see them today with your split screen ability?
No, because I've only just started unpacking all this stuff from years back. I found all sorts of cardboard boxes.
Promises.
No, it'll all emerge.
We'll meet again.
I never regretted that night. Yeah, I gave up the Bolton Octagon, and where would that have led? I don't know.
I work with the Bolton Octagon at the moment, actually. It's quite funny to hear that.
Well, is Mark Babbitt still there?
Does take part.
I don't know. It's a new director. But Lesley, what was your involvement? Do you remember?
I did bits of this, that, and the other for everybody, really, didn't I? Apart from Sue and Edward, sadly. Costume set, poster design, what have you. I don't think I performed with you lot, but I did bits of performance with Camden's team.
Yeah.
You did.
But one of the things that
you performed at the Delphi. You performed Bette Lynch.
Oh God, yes.
Oh God, yes. That was called
God, yes.
What was it called? That was good, actually. That was actually a really super show at Salford College.
I don't remember. I think I put that out of my memory.
Something about people, wonderful world, something. Come on, Rikki.
What do you mean, come on, Rikki?
Rikki, remember, I mean, I've got a few brain cells. They're also getting older, so between us, we can manage. Something about world or wonderful or beyond world.
No, I remember the show, but I can't remember the title of it. I've forgotten.
It'll come to me. But Lesley, you were great, and you were on a table dressed as Bette Lynch.
Yeah.
Skins.
So
I remember.
Bit like... Go on, Rikki.
I think I have an article in my box which there are some photographs from City Life of you dressed in a leopard skin outfit, and I'll find it. I think I've got that somewhere in a box. Okay.
Oh my good God, that is really worrying. Can I just say one thing before, because I might have to go in a minute, and so sadly I might have to leave you all, but because of working on the periphery of a lot of these companies and dipping in and out of, costume set, little bit of performance here, there and everywhere with quite a lot of people. One thing I remember thinking at the time, unlike something that somebody said, I don't know whether it was Spinoza or somebody, that in those days there was money. We helped each other a lot, and there was money to be really creative. You didn't have to follow the rules like you do now. You could be, in my mind, you could be more creative than having to toe the line. I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it felt like to me.
You are right.
The other thing is that when, for example, I went to work for Welfare State, a few years afterwards, Welfare State started to get fed up with having to deliver work to certain criteria. And I heard through the grapevine that the reason that they did that was they just got sick of having to fill in the forms all the time rather than doing work from a perspective that was just exploratory or experimental.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it was easier to do that in those.
Yeah, and we're people. You know, companies after the 90s. I felt companies became much more restricted with what they could and couldn't create.
I would offer an opposite opinion.
Watch out.
Well, we got regular Arts Council funding from 2003 to 2015, and to begin with, I think it certainly has changed. But to begin with, what they said to us is that we want to help you make the best work you can. And so they were really hands-off with us. We did what we said we were going to do, and they were very, they seemed to be quite happy with that. But what changed really was when the Tories got in 2010, and then the Arts Councils were nervous about their position. So they were having to fulfil government criteria. So instead of them wanting to help us, they said, we want you to help us. So we have to help
the
them.
The artists have to fulfill their mission.
There's also something else is, I don't know where you got your funding from. Did you apply through visual arts or through theatre, you see?
We were
because
we were all three. So
exactly.
We were the visual art at one point, then theatre, and then I think we ended up on combined art.
Because there was a particular stage where, for example, I found myself in a situation of, because I had kind of started in the visual arts and ended up in theatre as a director because I wanted to do things, that I was kind of being forced into drama and theatre, and it became harder to get funding for that. Whereas if you were in the combined arts, I think it was a completely different setup.
I seem to remember a scheme where you were always covered for stage management costs. Which
exactly.
Basically, you shoved all your losses onto stage management. That's how you did it. Which I did many shows that way.
In the beginning for us, I mean, for the first, 20 years or something, we didn't get that regular funding. So whatever, it was a heck of a long time. But before that, I think the fact that we worked in the outdoors meant that you could kind of, I don't know, there was you could get a fee, which was good. And two, you could get bookings where people didn't really care what they were booking, basically. So we just could do what we were going to do, and we just turned up and did it, and you were just left to your own devices. So, it was a bit tough at times. We had some pretty horrible times of dealing with, vile mobs of young people on a Saturday afternoon outside McDonald's or whatever. But it was definitely a bit of a tough kind of learning curve, but we could get paid, and it would be things like shopping centre managers. So there were great sort of times when we'd turn up to do the show, and then the shopping manager would come out and say, "Excuse me, can you go away, please?" We'd say, "But we've been booked," and they say, "Well, I don't know anything about that." And he'd say, "Well, it was you, I think, booked us." It's really quite a lot of those kind of things, really, and so it just meant that we could just plough on, kind of. It is about sort of honing your skills in a way, because we could do things then really below any critical radar. I mean, we could just be appalling on occasions, and then times when it just wasn't working with an audience, and other times when weirdly it did, and you thought, oh, maybe we've got something here. And then, later, like now, I think, but there's such a kind of, the whole thing has been
Monetised.
kind of jumped on. It's been jumped on and controlled now by the Arts Council. The Arts Council is desperately trying to dictate what is outdoor art. You know, it's not.
Yeah, completely.
It's
Yeah, I
outdoor
agree.
arts. And it's like it's really quite prescriptive, and it's also, I think, if you're starting out now, there's way too much kind of critical view on you, you know. So you really, if you don't get going straight away, you've had it, you know. Anyway, that was.
Remember that clown show we did, which we did, I think, every summer under the auspices of Stella Hall, who paid us. And I remember Rikki came up to, well, originally it was my friend Rob. And
yeah, I remember him.
Over. And when Rob and I were doing it, Rikki said, you're doing clown show, right? Can you monocycle? No. Can you juggle? No. Can you... Right. And we were doing for ages. And Rob bowed out to run a restaurant, and then came in and played it. And we did that every summer.
Yeah.
Great fun.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
I just want to read out. I just want to read something from the article, just to finish on Theatre Totale, just for the moment. This was about coming back from Amsterdam.
Oh yeah,
Jesus. We did the theatre. We did the
show at the Milk
movie. We did movie at the Melkweg. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were coming back from the Melkweg. From Amsterdam, and there was a serious blowout. One of the tires.
We were lucky to be alive, Camden.
On the motorway. Yeah.
It's the one we survived because I drove.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Okay, I'll just let me read this bit out, and you can comment on this. I'll just read this bit out, and then you can comment on it. No one was seriously hurt, but the company van was written off. I know this because I was in the van. Right. Losing the van was the final blow in what had been an arduous 2 years. Despite Northwest Arts' offer to fund their next project, Theatre Totale remained silent. And they re-emerged later. We'll talk about that later. But what happened there? This is relevant to the Arts Council. Oh, well, actually, it's Northwest Arts.
Well, I can tell you because I looked after that van, and it had a new tyre, and it was the new tyre which exploded. And I've got no idea why.
Fault by the manufacturers, we were told.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a brand new tyre, and I remember still to this day, because I was in the passenger seat in the front.
Yeah.
And I remember spinning round in the middle of the motorway. And I remember when we scraped along the inside of a concrete wall under a tunnel, and then ended up on the grass, which was at the side of the motorway. And I remember this guy actually stopping and saying, "You guys are so lucky to be alive," because it was in rush hour traffic. And there were 7 of us in the vehicle, and we had been stopped at customs coming back from Amsterdam, and they took the whole van apart.
No, I don't remember that.
I remember it because the guy who was going out with a woman who was working with us called Rosie, who was a technician, an Irish,
Rosie O'Connell.
Rosie O'Connell.
Yes.
Rosie O'Connell's boyfriend, Paul. Paul, who became a director at the BBC.
That's it, absolutely. And he had actually hidden some weed in a little hanging flower pot.
It was a geranium.
In the front.
And the customs were far more interested in custard powder.
Exactly. I still remember
the French for custard.
So I was extremely pissed off with him, as beforehand I had said, nobody try to bring anything back. Okay. And he went, yeah, that's fine. But he did. So that was a precursor.
In weed.
Yeah.
Can I just
So
ask-
anyway,
Oh.
yeah, it's okay, Rebecca. If you...
I was going to say we haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything from Camden actually yet, who was part of this outfit.
Exactly.
Also, before we take up so much fucking time trying to reminisce everything. And by the way, Lesley, it's called something, an unknown destination.
Wherever we are, an unknown
destination.
No, that was a completely different thing.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Was that Bet Lynch? Do you mean the Bet Lynch?
Yeah, the Bet Lynch thing was actually called something else. Yeah.
I think Ricky's got a different memory there, but how about
No,
you?
I've got the articles and the photographs still of that one.
Camden, how was your life with Theatre Totale? And
I was in Belfast. I had escaped to Belfast, and I was working for.
Oh yeah, he was on the run.
I was on the run, and I escaped to Belfast. I was working for the BBC Radio, BBC Radio Belfast, and I was talking to some actors in the green room. We were recording this radio play, and this guy was telling me, you know, you want to go to Manchester. Manchester's where it's happening. They've got Granada Studios. They've got all this going on. They've got 3 theatres, really good, and they've got a big scene there. So I went. So I did. That's what I did. And I got to Manchester and somehow got in touch with this guy called Shine, Jeremy Shine.
Yep.
And I was asking about Public Spirit, and he said, "Well, they're really, you know, they're really finished. They're all washed up. But there's this interesting group called Theatre Totale. You might, I mean, and I believe they're looking for people. So I went and saw movie, and I was." I
fell in love with it, did you? You fell in love with Richard, or?
Well, I saw Richard. I thought, oh, you know, he's great, and you guys, I thought the show was great. I thought it was, you know, just so much fun. I was working at Granada Studios, on some awful fucking daytime TV show.
Oh, it was lovely.
And Richard was in it, and I went up to him in the canteen, Granada Studios, and I said, "I saw you last night in that play. That was brilliant. That was really good. Tell me all about this. What's going on with this? I love this company, and that's exactly the kind of thing I want to do. This is fucking bollocks what we're doing here." So yeah, that's how I got involved.
And I remember opening the front door of that weird house which we lived in, which was in somewhere.
Oxford Place.
But that's right, Oxford Place. I remember answering the door to you and seeing you standing there. And yeah, we just started to talk.
Up the steps, didn't they? There's something about that house and the steps, and because Bill Hopkinson also turned up somehow on the steps.
Yeah, everyone.
Bill Hopkinson.
Mm.
Didn't your dad live in the back room, Rivka?
Oh, fuck. Yes. I would not even remember that.
Yeah, you fucking did. I remember that.
That's another bottle of wine now. Yes, my dad did live in the back room and did actually, yes, that was quite volatile.
We were saying, Rivka, before you appeared, that Papa Rubin, as we know, very fondly know him, always appeared in his dressing gown, sometimes with a frying pan.
Exactly, with pig trotters in it. With pig trotters, deep frying. Yeah.
Quite
God. Yeah.
That was the 80s, wasn't it? Oh, lovely.
Oh, it was. It was.
And I just declare at this point, I had absolutely no idea what we were doing.
I also remember
ever. I just want to say
that house, Rivka. You always had rotting apples on the mantelpiece.
Did I? That must have been Rikki. That's not me.
Yeah,
But,
that was me.
yeah, but I do really want to say, I really did join Manchester for its energy, and I'm still here for the very same thing, I realise.
Right. Okay.
I think Manchester still has that energy. It's got another research. I even the other day had a conversation with somebody who runs the Visual Arts Network in South Africa, and she was told about the energy of Manchester and it being always very political and da da da. So I think the same is happening. It might have troughs, but I really joined all of you just on pure the pure passion of it, because I can't actually.
You're frozen.
I just carry on. I didn't understand until the mid-90s what the fuck we were doing.
I think it's Rikki that's frozen.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm getting you loud and clear. It's fine.
Yeah, thank you. So it's only then that I started to learn a bit more, have a bit more general knowledge, learned English, that in hindsight I can understand a bit. But I think I trusted, and I still trust it now.
It was seminal for me, that decision when I thought, should I sign the contract at Bolton? And I saw your show, The Fall of House of Usher, and I thought, no, I want to do that. I've never, ever regretted that.
Okay, Richard, let's move on, and I'm going to ask you to just talk a little bit about Pan Theatre Company. I think they were based in the Thompson's Arms, and Paul Shand and his work.
Right, I think
Dave Simpson.
I know Dave very well. That all centred around Northwest playwrights who used to meet at the Actors Centre. I was a member of that with Dave and with Paul Shand, various other people. And that was very supportive. I don't think I can tell you very much about it because I don't remember, but we used to meet every Thursday and talk. And playwrights are, I don't know, kind of bereft. So it was good to get together with Marvin Close was another one. Most of them became soap opera writers. And good on them. I didn't meet that one.
I'll just quote. Let me just quote from the article. It says, "The last show ever seen at the Thompson's Arms was Anywhere Theatre's A Strange Tale on the Way to the Harvest."
That was Paul's, wasn't it?
That was Paul's play. Yeah. He'd been at Manchester Poly with you.
Yeah, he was at drama school with me. Yeah, he was in my. He was a very strange man and somebody I liked very much. He directed me in Christian Love by Howard Brenton, and he was very off the wall and absolutely wonderful. He died very young. He
died. Did you say?
Yeah, he died.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Didn't know that either. Paul Shand.
Paul Scott.
Yeah.
What did he die of?
Scott. Oh yeah. That was his other name.
We never found out.
Right.
We did. And
I didn't know that.
Funeral, which I did not go to, full of chess geeks, because his great passion was chess. And
his great passion was what? I didn't hear that properly.
Chess.
What?
Chess.
Chess.
Yeah, he played chess. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love Paul. Yeah. Yes, but the writing thing, there was Marvin, and there was Trevor Southers, and there was Dave Simpson, and all of whom were brilliant. We used to meet every Thursday and chat to give each other support, I suppose, because we were all turned down all over the place. But again, I would thank Rebecca and Rikki for any success I had at writing. It was a bit vicarious because it was after we were doing the Meltbeck Sue, which was about 4 years into movie. And I wanted to tell this story earlier, Rikki, but you came up to me one night and you said you were drunk tonight, weren't you? And I do drink, and I'm often drunk, but I don't drink before a show. And I said, no, I'm not. And you said, no, it's fine, but you were pissed. And I said, no, I honestly wasn't. And you said, right, well, what have you been doing all afternoon? So I said, I've been in that lovely little cafe, and I've had a few cakes. And I honestly did not know. But it was after that I thought, I'm played out. I've been doing Move 4 years. And I thought, I think I've got to the end of my run in this. And I think Simon Cherry took over, didn't he? But it was on the hovercraft back with Rosie O'Connell. And she said she was stage managing, and she also had been with it for a long time and decided it was kind of time to move. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, why don't you write something and I'll direct it? And so I wrote The Red Dragon. Initially as a one-man show, which think about Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle. And then Stella, was it Stella Hall? I think it was, that said, rewrite it, extend it to 3 characters, and we'll pay for it, which was the start of writing properly, which is when I asked Rosie to direct it the first time, and then I asked Rikki to direct it the next time. Well, of course, your input was fucking fabulous.
I remember we put it on in the Brick House, didn't we?
It was, yes.
It was the Brick House. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, shit.
Yeah.
Wow, cool.
So that was your first play, Richard?
That was the first play I'd written, yeah.
And what was the second play?
The same play was French Paste, and Tim's left us.
Oh. Okay, so...
Where's Tim? Is he gone?
We can't actually talk about that because Tim isn't here, but... it was originally produced by Raw Material, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
And it was directed by?
Nick.
Who is here? Perhaps we can talk about that a little bit, Nick.
Yeah, well, French Paste, that was a sort of bit of a weird period, I think, in Raw Materials then. Because I mean, I was a Johnny Come Lately to Raw Material. In fact, I met you two, Lesley and Camden, through some workshops you were running. I arrived in Manchester in '85. First people I worked with was Boo Bennett's Bagatelle Theatre.
Oh, I remember.
Did a thing called by Janet Mantle. It's my first arrival in Manchester. I didn't know my way around at all. And we're doing a kids show with Bagatelle just during summer. And that was Philippa Coslett, who had been in Figan, which was I don't know if that was Raw Materials' first.
Somebody's making a little noise. I'm just going to. I think it's Rikki. Yes, it was. Carry
on. So I met Philippa, who was raving about this incredible company called Raw Material, because she'd been in Figan, which was written by Norman Leach. And you were doing this series of workshops, trying to sort of get a company together to do his next play, Race Across Antarctica. And so, yes, the unpleasantness of the South Pole or whatever.
No, I am pretty fond.
and that's how I met you. I was just completely, at that time, Camden was effectively a mute. He spoke incredibly quietly. And there was this couple who was sitting in the corner. It was at the sort of lads club or something, and it was sort of like youth club.
Yeah.
And they had a boxing gym downstairs, and so there you were, this couple looking like the Addams family, like with this, so all in sort of black Victoriana, saying absolutely nothing, but with this very modern-looking McLaren baby buggy. And Luke, I think, was barely a few months old. Yeah, he wasn't even a year old. So it was very charismatic, and of course you wanted to be part of it because it was just so outre. Yeah, so that's
So that'd be 80. That'd be 84 then.
85, and I graduated in 84.
Oh, 85.
And I spent a few months still in the Midlands, and then ended up moving to Manchester for the start of the academic year in 85. Yeah. So yeah, it was about 85. Yeah, about that time. But Luke was not yet a year old, and everything else sort of followed from that. Yeah, but after Race Across Antarctica, I think, when did Norman die? It was never,
after that.
It wasn't very long after that. And there was a sort of like, there wasn't really a possibility of doing any more. Because Camden, you were very against directors for some reason, although you're actually a natural director. You didn't like literary theatre, so we had this sort of schism, because Richard definitely is a writer of theatre literature, or comes from that sort of side of things.
I came from rep, so yeah.
Yeah, you're from rep. So I don't know. I trained in college, and we sort of had this idea of total theatre, which seemed to sort of range from Wagner to Andrew Lloyd Webber, God help us. So I don't know. I just didn't know. I knew fuck all. I came from college knowing fuck all, but sort of knew a bit about twisting wires together. So we had arrived at this point where we're trying out scripts, although you didn't like script-based drama. So I did French Paste, which was very much a script and straight theatre, wasn't it really? I mean, I don't know what we called straight then. It wasn't. It
was first time. Do you remember Round Your Kitchen Table when we first read that?
Oh God, it was a drunken, yeah.
Sue and Philippa and Tim were all laughing.
Is Tim still online? Is Tim still there?
No,
he was absolutely plastered.
Well, yeah, and then you all told me it was comedy, and I didn't know that.
Oh really? Oh fuck! You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I thought it was. I thought it was a comedy.
No.
But I think
that was your great contribution to the early sort of history of that play, convincing Richard that this is actually funny.
Yeah,
really?
I honestly didn't know.
Oh fuck! Oh shit! I don't know. I like to treat everything as potential comedy, because I just think I'm very into sort of doubleness of tone.
The story of that was Tim said, well, we've all known each other for ages and never appeared. You must write something. He had a very rich boyfriend who got the green room, and he suggested several plays which I turned down, and I said, no, I'm not going to do those. And he said, well, write something. And I said, what am I going to write about? And he said, write about me, which I did.
Oh. Yeah, I I wasn't sure what the dynamics were at the time. I know Tim was very much a catalyst for sort of spurring things on.
Yes.
I mean, my contribution was very little other than just listening to you guys rehearse.
It wasn't very difficult. You're wonderful. You cope with us.
Yeah.
We were both very difficult.
Well,
one of the things I remember really well, if I can throw this in here, as being the person doing the bits and pieces and the odd performance, was actors coming to me and saying to me, "I don't understand Camden. I don't understand why doesn't he like directors? I can't work with him. He doesn't like directors, and we need a director." I just thought I might throw that in there.
They were saying we should have a director and he's not directing us correctly.
Well, people wanted direction, didn't they? But Camden didn't agree with the directors. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying that
you're talking about Race Across Antarctica, aren't you?
Yeah, that was very weird. But I mean, I think Camden was in it, and people were looking to Camden to be a director, although he'd explicitly said that he wasn't the director. And actually, it was just a matter of, well, you've got to gauge your own performance. And I think that it became a struggle because actually nobody felt very comfortable with the script. Had it been a stronger script, it might have, or it had been generated by the company, it would have been a different story. But we had a mediocre script, which definitely needed some...
Okay, Rivka wants to come in here.
Yeah, I just wanted to put a little memory in that I have from, I think, the Boardwalk. Maybe it was somewhere else with you, Camden and Rikki, which was also that you really hated being directed.
Who did?
Camden.
Who I did?
Camden hated you. I remember you hated being directed, hated being a director, hated anything about directing. So it's quite interesting to work with you. And then eventually ended up doing some directing after all that.
Yes, I did.
Should have all been in the Whalley Range All Stars. We had no acting or directing, except we had one director with Rikki. That was in a derelict, freezing cold, falling down wreck, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
The thing is, that was particularly interesting for me because I started in the visual arts, and I only started directing because I had a desire to make stuff happen. But I also think like a visual artist, and I still do. And all this, now I've directed like loads of stuff on a small scale and large scale and all sorts of things. Really, I think directors are important, but it depends on how you direct and who you're working with. And I've since gone to film school, and I've made some films, and I've worked on other people's films as art director and all sorts of other things. And I think that directors are absolutely vital. But I've also worked with directors who can't direct because they don't have a range of awareness of the link between the visual and the literary.
Yeah.
That is especially important in film. And I've spent most of my life studying that, really. So I think it depends on the director and how you work in relationship with the performers. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
There's a whole spectrum.
The major quest is trying to find the right director.
Yeah.
The major question is, it is that. But I mean, why do you have to? I worked with Ken Campbell quite a lot, and he agreed with me. He totally agreed with me on this director issue, that directors are absolutely not essential at all. What you need is actors who know what they're doing. That's how he directed. He taught people how to get on stage, get off stage, deliver their lines, and do their business and make the show work. That was what he taught. That was his method of direction. And
well, I would agree.
You stand there, you do this, you do that. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. It is bullshit. But the thing is that Ken Campbell, although you may contradict what I'm going to say now, I saw quite a lot of his.
He was the director.
Work. He came from RADA, and most of his stuff was grounded in the written word. He was not a visualizer. Yeah. And that this is actually about language. And so it's a huge discussion. I don't want to discuss it now.
That leads in quite neatly to the next topic, right?
The Glee Club
is not the visual. Let's get away from the visual, from language. Let's get away from language and literature.
Good idea.
Kind of discussion. We've got Lesley here and we've got Jackie Haynes, who are both visual people, and perhaps they might like to talk about their involvement and how they came to be involved in doing theatre and working in it in a visual capacity.
Jackie, I've had a bit of a waffle, so Jackie, you go now.
We can't hear you.
Basically, Jackie took Theatre Totale, raw materials, costume design and production to a whole new level. Was it Midsummer Night's Dream? Was that the first one?
No, it wasn't. What was the first one?
Jackie, you can write in the chat if
can you mime? Can you write in the chat? Tempest.
The Tempest, of course. Yeah.
After Midsummer Night's Dream, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, okay. But we can't hear her now. I can't remember how she came to join, really. So, but all I know was that it was a good job.
Through Ian Lashford, wasn't it, Jackie? Was it Ian? No. Okay. This is interesting.
Let's have a guessing game. Anybody else really guesses how she came to join, and she can nod. Come on, Nick. How did she come to join?
I wasn't involved in the Tempest. I was out of raw material by that time.
No.
Camden.
Nick did the.
Camden, how do you think she came to join?
Stream. How did Jackie join?
Prizes if we get it right.
Prize, yes, we get a prize.
You'll never guess.
She could tell us, and she's okay. Great.
David Hoyle. No.
Brian David.
Yeah.
Jeremy Stein.
No, it wouldn't have been there. No, it wouldn't have been there.
No. Oh, who else was in raw material?
Fiona Watson. No.
Yeah.
Lorraine.
By pure chance, you just found your way there as an audience member? No. You were the apprentice.
Jackie, did you come with that young girl performer? Ellie. Oh, John Mansell. Okay.
Did you just know it that way? John Mansell.
Who's John Mansell? I'm lost. Who is he?
Please type.
This is like a seance.
Okay, I'll check the comments. Look, Jackie knows how to use chat.
I worked in the Corner House bar.
She said, "You'll never guess. Sorry, no idea why I can't switch on audio. It was John Mansell. I worked in Corner House Bar." Yeah.
And now we know. And then what happened?
John shouted through toilet door at green room.
And shouted what?
He shouted it through the toilet door, yeah.
What did he shout? Did he shout, "Never work with raw material"?
Camden needs a costume designer for the bed. Great.
I just want to ask something about the Tempest. Where did the yellow people come from?
Actually, that came from Rebecca, from Rivca.
Really?
Yeah.
That
What
was
are the yellow
genius.
people? What do you mean by yellow people?
When the at the wedding feast, you know, when they has the, there's this sort of interlude where it's supposed to be sort of a mask or whatever. You had the yellow people showing wonders. It's just, yeah, it's just, I thought that was genius.
Yeah, the yellow people appeared throughout the Tempest. They were the sort of spirits. They were the ghostly presences of, you know, Prospero's Isle.
I have no recollection of this, Camden. You want to credit someone else with it?
No, well, it came from you because I had a dream about you in which you were wearing yellow lipstick.
Oh,
how
wow.
weird is that?
So it came from you.
And I told it to Steve. I told it to Steve Curtis, this dream.
Curtis.
Yeah, I told the dream to Steve Curtis, and he said, "Wow, that's brilliant. Let's have the yellow people." Steve was designing all the lights and stuff.
So he's the credit. That's where they came from, really.
Yeah, but clearly, you were the muse.
You were the muse, yeah.
That's such an old-fashioned concept. I'm not sure I want to engage in that one.
You were in a dream.
Not asked. I didn't ask to be in that dream now, did I?
There you go.
But thank you very much. But I think it's Steve Curtis.
Didn't Simon Ray work on the set for that with Nick? Is that right?
No.
With the guy called Richard. A guy called Richard Hall.
Richard Hall, yeah. He's,
there was
Richard. Oh, yes, of course, Richard Hall. Yeah, they fell out as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, who fell out with who?
Simon Ray fell out with Richard Hall.
Who's making that noise?
Somebody
again.
Crunchy.
Rikki again.
It's all right, I'll silence him. It's all right.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
There were a lot of fallings after that time.
Mine's
I don't
not
know.
crunchy. This is not crunchy. So I've got a microphone.
Now Jackie's gone now.
No, Jackie said John shouted through the toilet door at the green room, "Camden needs a costume designer." Right. Funnily enough, I was on my way to Amsterdam, but decided to stay in Manchester to do this interesting job. How about that?
And that was the whole start of the journey.
That was.
I think that's Manchester 3, Amsterdam 0.
Yeah.
Jackie is coming in again.
Oh, look
Carol
out!
has just arrived.
Hello. Now, how do I get to see everybody?
Oh, it's Carol Donaldson.
Hello. How do I get to see everybody? Gallery view. Hello.
Right on time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
I found my tongue. I found my voice.
Oh yeah, Jackie's back.
You hear? You got your phone working, Jackie. Well done. We've had problems.
Yeah. No, because it's boring. But higher in voice.
Hi.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
How do I get to the next page?
You're great. You're great.
Was
We were
that
just-
story?
We were
Did
just
that story
asking
make any
Jackie.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that story make
Yeah.
any sense at all?
Well, I read
Yeah.
your comment out to everyone,
Yeah.
and it said you were shouting through the door of the
John
green room.
Mansell was John Mansell was a regular. He lived in India House.
Okay.
Because I worked in the Corner House bar, and me and John used to do these do's, as we called them, do's. You know, at the Green Room and the Allstein Brewery, and that's when I started working with David Hoyle, the Divine David at that time.
Yeah.
And we had one of these do's, a really early one, at the Green Room, and we got shouted at by Mayhew Edmonds because we lined up the parade in their rehearsal space. So it was, so we like paraded into the bar. And I'd like to come back with this actually because I've got loads of really great photos from that time. So I'd really like to come back and show you those. But I think it was at that day when John Mansell shouted through the toilet door, "Jackie, Camden wants somebody to do costumes for the Tempest." I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come out and I'll talk to you." And then we went, wasn't it brilliant at the Refuge Assurance Building when it was derelict, rehearsing, and it was just a wonderful time. And I remember making Carol this fishtail out of yellow stuff, and the ballroom had that big warped sprung dance floor because of water damage, and it was just wonderful. And the sad thing was that we couldn't actually put the show on there because I don't know what happened, but we ended up at Salford University Theatre, didn't we? So at least we had somewhere to go, but it wasn't as it was meant to be, really, was it?
No.
It was great fun. I remember going around with Ian and the bottle of sherry through all these dark rooms that were like just full of dust, and we went up to the clock tower and just explored, really. And that was all sort of part and parcel of the whole experience of bringing the costumes together, really. It was great. It's really good.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah.
And Carol, of course, was the musical director on that show. She's unmuting.
I'll unmute myself. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Good fun being musical director for Raw Material.
I didn't see you. I adore you. I couldn't sing, and you made me think I could.
Oh.
That was in Midsummer Night's Dream, yes?
Oh.
Good. Yes, it was.
Just made me think I could.
You can. You can. You could. You can.
Carol has just arrived in time because it's now time to talk about the amazing, brilliant Red Stockings.
Oh gosh.
And Carol was actually not one of the early members of Red Stockings, but she was in. I think that's their second show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. There they are. Henrietta Whitson-Jones, Helen Edmondson, Amelia Bulmore, and me without my glasses.
How did you get involved? How did you get involved?
I answered an advert. In the Stage. And I went for an audition in Manchester. I was living in Wrexham. I was just a little Wrexham girl. And I went to Manchester to audition. They put music in front of me that was impossible to read. It was so badly written. And I was so nervous, and I just stumbled through it, thought that was a disaster. And they said, "Well, you did better than anyone else." So I was their second choice. Their first choice couldn't do it. So I was their poor second choice. And I moved to Manchester to join them. And they'd been going since 1985. I joined in 87. There was Judith on the keyboard before me. And I spent the next 3 years terrified for every single gig. I felt sick with nerves. They were all so confident and fantastic and clever. That's the first show I did, Running Gags. and then we did Breaking Rank.
Oh, you got all the stuff.
I've looked it out. I've did my homework this morning. Ladies in the Lift was the final show. When I first joined, we went up to the Edinburgh Festival, and we'd stopped at the Stirling Festival, and that's where Liz Pugh, who's not on these photos, but of course was the administrator and the driver and organizer.
Yeah.
She met John there from Welfare State International, and then the rest is history, as they say. But I was terrified for every gig.
They now run the float, the float.
Walk the plank.
Yeah.
Walk the plank. Yeah.
Walk the plank.
Helen, of course.
I think that last poster you put up, I think I did that one.
Which one, Les? This one? No. Ladies in the Lift.
Yeah, I think I did that.
I know I've read one of them, and it says thank you to Lesley Martin. I've just read your name on one.
I think it was that one, love.
Okay. I love that picture,
Anyway.
but they look like such nice girls. So Helen has gone on to become an award-winning playwright and adapter of modern classics, and she's won a lot of awards. Helen Edmondson. Amelia, of course, has gone on to do amazing work on television.
She mainly does comedy. Yeah.
Say again.
She mainly does comedy.
Yeah.
Oh,
no. Programs and comic film.
Crime drama as well.
No.
Yeah, she was in Scott and Bailey.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's the boss in Scott and Bailey, and yeah, she's worked with Steve Coogan a lot.
She's done radio plays as well. She's written lots.
Yeah.
She's done loads. She's done everything. She's phenomenally talented.
I went to drama school with Steve Coogan.
Say that again, Dickie.
Drama school with Steve Coogan, and
oh yeah, Manchester Met he went, didn't he?
Yeah. We got very jealous about
that. I've heard some things about him. Now, say again, Richard.
I'm sure none of which are true.
I think they all are. Isla's good friends with his niece, Millie Coogan. Now, I don't know if you know about Henny, but she suffered very badly from MS.
Oh, no.
And she's in a home. She's been in a home for many years. And her children come and visit her. I think the children are grown now. But she got too ill to live with her family. And she's been in a home. So it's very sad. And I know Amelia visits her regularly, because I saw Amelia at a funeral of a mutual friend of ours a couple of years ago, Katie Jones. Did any of you know Katie Jones?
Yeah.
So she had a sudden brain hemorrhage, and Amelia was very close to her, so I saw her then. And I know that back then she was still seeing Henny a lot, but she finds it tough. So that's where they're all up to at the moment. I don't really have much else to say, except the highlight for me was doing the Clause 28 gig at the Free Trade Hall, where we shared a stage with Jimmy Somerville. And there was thousands of people. And we did something called the Angry Rap. And they used to drag me into the sketches as well as the playing the piano. They were often short and would drag me in to do the sketches. I was absolutely petrified.
So you're not going to do it now for us?
I can vaguely remember it, for, surprise, surprise. There's a lot of shows since then. And there was something called Manguage.
Is that a precursor of mansplaining?
Yeah, Manguage. We did it back in the 80s.
Right. Good.
So they were great. What a great bunch of women to work with. And it really led me into the fringe theatre scene and my career as an MD. My patchy career as an MD.
Excellent.
That's all I have to say, I think, unless anybody wants to ask me anything.
Thank you, Carol. That's wonderful.
I've been shorter than my allotted time, but that's fine.
I think like there's so many things in it. Every time anybody makes any sort of utterance on this, there's so many things packed into every utterance that there's like so many more things that like need to be talked about, need to be spoken about it, you know, all in good time. But it's great to make a start, you know, because I think it's really necessary.
Yeah, it's good to. It's been good for me hunting out all the old leaflets and the press releases and the reviews and the thinking about that time.
I've got a big bag of stuff as well, and like I'd like to go through it. And you know, I ended up having a fancy dress shop for like 17 years, and the amount of times I was asked, so how did this all start? You know, and the beginning was always raw material, because I had all these costumes left over from these like, you know, performances, plays, and like, what do you do with costumes after if it's like a, you know, an organisation that's not venue based? You kind of keep hold of them, and then what do you do with them? And so it's just like accumulated all this stuff, and then ended up starting a fancy dress business from it. And I've got like 800 costumes languishing in my loft at the moment. So, you know, waiting for something to happen, perhaps. But I'm certainly not in a rush to get rid of them.
That many.
Yeah, they're all like one-offs. You know, it's like an archive, and you know, all the stuff that's been spoken about tonight. It's like an archive of stuff. It's, you know, what should happen with it? It's so valuable, I think. So like interesting and relevant now, because it can't possibly kind of be repeated. And it's you know, I think, I don't know about you guys, but I just think it kind of need to hold on to it as important, because it is, because for the reasons we talked about before.
All our stuff's gone to the tip and continues to go to the tip.
Awful.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Can you do? Just storing it. I have a bit of a feeling that if it's not going out and being seen by people, or I mean, it's very sad sometimes. But we have had to downsize again, because we do largely visual theatre. It just takes up so much space, and just seems little point in having stuff going mouldy in a room, basically, really.
I think it's the most ephemeral art form, isn't it? I mean,
I think so.
So it doesn't really survive beyond the immediate performance. So you just have these artifacts, like, you know, a script maybe, but if you
some things do and some things don't. You know, like Carol's got flyers.
I agree. It's fascinating. It's a good to keep things to a degree. I mean, like, you know, when it's at college, you know, you read these books and you see pictures of these great performances, which, you know, no idea what the hell they were like because you weren't there. But you see these sort of sets and things and think, oh yes, that's what, you know, they're interesting and maybe useful reference for. But
increasingly vital, I'd say.
Well, maybe during this hiatus. I mean, but it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen as theatre memorabilia. There's a Renaissance theatre in the Veneto area in Italy. It's got the original set from the very first performance, which just stayed there. So you've got this amazing sort of Romanesque amphitheatre covered in interior. On the set is this sort of 500-year-old theatre set, which has been standing there, and nobody's done a damn thing on it without having that in the background. It's very, very weird. It's like, you know, it's that sort of epitomizes the sort of notion of deadly theatre, where you're sort of hanging on to something because
and also what's his name, Joseph Boyce, and the memorabilia from his, I guess, their performances is just a cardboard box with some fat in it from
every other Joseph Boyce
from 40 years ago, and you think the fat doesn't look good, the box doesn't look good. I'm sure the at the time when that was big, you know, when that hit the world, it was probably good, but a cardboard box with fat in it, it's just a cardboard
pretty
box
meaningless.
with fat in it. It's not really.
No, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's meaningless because, like,
I saw photographs when I was a kid. I saw photographs of Joseph Beuys. There's
I think the actions themselves aren't meaningless at all, but I think.
But you had to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's the thing with performance. You had to be there.
I haven't seen that cardboard box with fat in it. It's not very interesting. It's
yeah, but where are the cardboard boxes with fat in them now? Are there any?
Well, there's lots of them. I mean, that was one of Beuys's. You want to fake a Beuys, you need either lead.
No, I don't mean that. I mean,
metaphorically speaking.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, where is the wherewithal now to even think to put a box of fat together? You know, as something that's going to be useful now and maybe in the future. You know, where is all that sort of thinking? Where is all that thinking at now? I just think it's really valuable stuff.
Yeah.
And like it's only ever going to be fragmented, but like it's really interesting to come back to this and like hold on to those fragments.
I think every great performance maybe has a legacy of an idea. You know, like any work of art. You know, people can say, "Oh yeah, that first occurred in that," and that's what you're preserving an idea or something. But
you're doing more than preserving an idea. I think you're doing more than preserving an idea.
This sort of thinking exists still in art schools. Does
it?
Yeah, it exists. I mean, my son left the Slade Art School about a year ago, and he knows all about this sort of stuff, and his friends discuss these ideas all the time. So it's still out there, but I think how it's actually shown is completely different. I think the delivery of this work has changed. That's all I can say about that now.
Sorry, which work? Oh, the boys' work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's a legacy, so it unfolds and it unfolds and it unfolds, and every like iteration of it is like adding another layer.
Exactly.
So but what about this legacy? You know, this is like laid dormant all this time.
Of what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think that's the reason that we're having this discussion. It can open up all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we were doing, we changed theatre. We did. The Range Theatre before that was Red, which is the way I was go into it. And suddenly there was this Fringe, which was exciting and okay, didn't make any money, but we did change. I think we did.
Yeah.
It was part of the destiny of the Fringe to turn into the mainstream. I mean, you see other companies like, I saw Theatre Totale when they'd just come out of Lecoq. Was it Lecoq they were at?
Yeah, they went to Lecoq.
They did a show called A Minute Too Late.
I saw it.
That. And it was, it's fun. It's amazing. You just see where they ended up. I mean, you know, Simon McBurney. I think Theatre Complicité is still, they are Simon McBurney and whoever he's chosen to work with. But, you know, it's like, that's the way things go. You know, like some will persist, like, and become heavily influential in what they do.
I think Whalley Range All Stars kind of went somewhere in the middle because we did make money and we were able to live before we got regular funding without without being overly commercial or particularly mainstream.
No. Well,
that's the whole thing about outdoor work being a bit under the radar, really. And you could
sort of occupy that place which was vacated by IO. You know, you sort of you hung in there. That's the thing. It's persistence. And
Yeah,
it's
and being under the radar as well.
Also recognised as being something unique and having something very definitely your own style.
Can I just move on to an issue I think that Rikki was talking about previously, and we just go back to the program here, because there's another thing about Theatre Totale, and it then became a different company under a different name.
Yeah, there's a reason.
And there was an interesting discussion that we had about the Arts Council, about the role of the Arts Council and their funding. And I think Rikki and Rivca can speak about this, and Lesley as well. Lesley.
No, I'm going to have to go. So I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to go now.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going.
But can we? I'd love to join this again. I'd like, you know, if we do another one of these, because like you're saying, Jackie, you're right. We can't. There's not enough time like this, you know. We need more time, don't we?
Yeah.
And documenting it, I think, is really important as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's being recorded.
This is being recorded now. Everything.
How easy it is to record this now? How difficult it was to document all that stuff then. I know it kind of flattens it out a little bit, but you know, at least we can do that. It's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
I remember when the green room shut, they did all that interviewing people. I don't know whether that website is still up and running, but they got funding to interview all the. I'm sure Rivca must have talked to Rivca and a few others.
That.
There's a lot of sound stuff on that. Yeah. I'm going to have to go as well. So
okay, guys.
Okay,
we're leaving, but we're going to carry on. We're going to
okay, I have to go in a minute, but not quite yet, because you're about to talk about funding things, and I think there's quite a lot to be discussed around the idea of what we were encouraged to do at the time and what we did and where that led. Because I certainly started to become a freelancer for very specific reasons. And I went to film school for very specific reasons, which were to do with survival and were also to do with lots of political things which were happening at the time with regards funding and how you got it and otherwise. And I've thought about this for a long period of time, and I've got lots to say about it. And it's an open, so it's an area of discussion which I would like to really open up.
Is it another meeting? This is another meeting.
It is. It is another meeting.
I hope I gave something to you, but I don't know if the right kid.
You did.
You bloody did,
He
mate.
loved it.
You definitely did. You definitely
he loves
did.
you guys. Yeah. He always going on about you guys.
And vice versa.
Rikki was saying some interesting stuff about fusion.
Well, I can.
Fusion and that debacle with the Arts Council.
Well, when Fusion fused with Caboodle, that was a particularly interesting time where I became extremely aware of what was going on. And so I've got a lot to say about that, and also about companies like Theatre de Complicité and how they got where they got. And quite a lot of it was to do with the fact that they were Oxford graduates and what that means. And also afterwards, I went on to be the performance director at the Eden Project. And I did a lot of outdoor theatre there. And while I was there, I also had to deal with a lot of funding issues for independent shows, and I learned lots about what was really happening. And so I've got a lot to say about that. And it's all about how venues are funded and smaller groups aren't. But it's also about how the Arts Council, as far as I've seen, have got a lot of flaws. A lot of flaws. There are lots of problems with how things were funded and why they were funding them. So, I mean, it's a whole other discussion. I would take great interest in sort of opening up for discussion, and I'd like to invite some other individual performers and groups who were around at the same time as us, but they were in London. Okay, because there was a north-south divide existed, and it was very, very evident. And the more I worked for other groups and as a freelancer, the more I became aware of it. And I think it needs kind of really opening up, because some of the work that we were doing was way ahead of its time, and still is to some degree. Okay, except we didn't have the technology that is available now. And on that note, I have to go. So great.
Okay, so that's a different meeting then. That's a separate meeting. So.
Yes.
I think we've come to the end of this one, more or less.
But a great discussion, actually. It was interesting hearing everybody, and
yeah, it's great.
And lots of notes, actually. I made a lot of notes of things we hadn't mentioned, and I imagine then other people have got 10, 20, 30 times as much. There's a lot more people there that suddenly came up in my memory, and a lot of shows.
Yeah.
So I think it's lovely, just even if only for a nostalgic trip, of actually remembering some of the things, like Wherever We Are, An Unknown Destination, or whatever the title was. Or it can lead
That's exactly what it was called. I know that for a fact, because I was actually seeing some of the students who were in it. I'm still in touch with those students.
Well, that's what I said, Wherever We Are, An Unknown Destination. So we agree.
No, we never agreed, Rebecca. I'm going to go now. Okay.
Okay, see
you later. Bye.
See you.
See you, Camden.
Okay, so I'll let you know on the next one.
Fantastic.